Rand Millie Fields found a little pocket of supporters who were a long way from home. The Jojo Tanks VW Beetle Volvo is an unlikely-looking rally car, but Jacques Hubert and Jacques Cross were still on the fringes of the top 10 and going like a train. The Delmas Service Park, with Etienne Lawrence and technical crew trying to figure out what they should change next on the Team Total Toyota Conquest to get it to run at optimum performance.
200 meters into the stage, it started spluttering and going crazy, so I couldn't get that cleared out. Changed throttle pots and fuel pressures and everything while I was driving, but nothing seemed to happen. It seems like an electrical fault. Lost another 40 seconds now, so well, back to square one again, try and get the time back and get back into second overall.
For Chart van der Walt, it was a slightly different scenario.
I mean, at this point in time, I think we are only about 20 seconds now in front of Ergen, but I mean, it can go any way. But the stage is fairly nice. We enjoy it, and we must just keep it together and see where we come, you know.
A huge crowd at the Delmas tar stage, and disaster for Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, who were cruising along with a broken side shaft. While that dropped the Dunair Toyota crew out of the top 3, Class N1 Championship contender Rodney Fasaki was doing a little forward planning on how to handle the assault on the class from Mike Houghton.
Yeah, it's very tight. We're just trying to keep it on the road, not take too many chances, just see how it goes. You know, it's still a long way to go, and we've got a bit of night to do because there has been some delays, so we'll probably attack in the night.
It was getting a little gloomy when the final 2 special stages of the day were run at Centre Rand. Runners at the back of the field were going to finish their day in the dark. But with a handy lead and no Damso and Hodgson to worry about, the sun was still shining, so to speak, for VW Motorsport crew Jan Habak and Douglas Judd. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were now up into 3rd place in the Team Total Toyota Conquest, and over the last 2 stages pulled back some time on 2nd place Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks Towing VW Golf. Behind Lawrence and Paisley, a fired-up Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz were on a charge to make up for the Delmas setback and were posting some blistering times. Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding lost time to both Lawrence and Paisley and Fecken and Lukowitz on the Centre Rand special stages, but were firmly in control of the Class A7 championship fight. It was business as usual for Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon, with the Group N leaders still going along merrily in the top 10. The Centre Rand stages saw the demise of Class A6 runners Scott Berger and Martin Buerter with overheating problems, and in Class N2, championship leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper edged away from Cobus Roos and Neil Faree. The end of a long haul, with Hannes Grobler reflecting on a good day at the office.
As I say, so far so good. It's quite comfortable. We got a lead in Group N. Everything is going according to plan. We don't look at the A6 and A7 times. So we're just trying to get to the end and seem to have the Group N title.
A handy day 1 lead for champions Habak and Judd, with an interesting scenario developing in the battle for the remaining podium positions. Outstanding championship issues would also be settled on day 2. The restart of the Stanek Gauteng Rally at AA Kyalami, with a scheduled special stage at the Midrand Grand Prix circuit having to be cancelled because of an administrative error. Rally leaders Jan Habak and Doug Judd were looking relaxed, while Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding had to be happy with their lot after day 1. With the AA Kyalami special stage cancelled, the final day of the Stanek Rally Championship was to be an all-tar affair with special stages at Girotech, Roslin, Norcombe Park and Esselen Park. And for those crews needing to make a late charge, there wasn't much special stage distance left to make up for lost time. The sprawling Girotech vehicle test facility is one of the finest complexes of its kind in the world, with large crowds flocking to what promise to be 2 interesting special stages. On special stages like the one which opened proceedings, there's often not much room for error, and with a lead of nearly 3 minutes, Jan Habak and Doug Judd weren't about to take any risks. Although the notorious Girotech water splash was dry this time around, Habak and Judd took matters very sedately. Apart from their stake in the Class A7 championship issue, Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding were defending a 32-second lead over Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. It was was up to Lawrence and Paisley to make the running, and where the team total pair were concerned, they were hoping day one mechanical maladies had been sorted out.
Our strategy is just to go as fast as we can. We've now got all 4 calipers back on the car, so the braking should be back to normal again, and we'll see what happens. That's basically what we can do. We can just keep up the pressure.
The day started well for Lawrence and Paisley, who took 21 of the required 32 seconds off Van der Walt and Harding in the opening stage. For Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, day 2 was also going to revolve around playing catch-up.
We're a minute behind Chart, 40 seconds behind Etienne. So we're just going to try and keep up the pressure and see if any one of them makes a mistake. And we're always aiming for that second place, yes.
Catching the crews ahead was going to be a tall order for Fecken and Lukowitz, and Class A7 championship contenders Barry Poblar and Mike Burrows also had a mountain to climb if they were going to lift the A7 championship from under the noses of Chart Van der Walt and Cindy Harding. There wasn't much pressure flying around where Hannes Frobler and Nick Haddon were concerned, and all they basically had to do was stay on the road to wrap up the Group N and Class N3 titles. Frobler is a former South African rally and off-road champion, and with all his vast experience, wasn't likely to fall prone to sudden rushes of blood. A top 10 finish also beckoned for Callie van der Merwe and Rodri Vermeulen, although they had little hope of catching Fecken and Lukowitz in Class A6. Race cam footage is from the Van der Merwe Vermeulen Toyota Conquest and graphically illustrates just how easy it is to make mistakes if you get a little over-enthusiastic. Experienced husband and wife team Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen led Class S20, which does not count for championship points, and took complete control of the category when nearest challengers Doug Kemsley and Steve Provolar came adrift in a big way. The Fuchs top car BMW, in which Kemsley has shared driving duties with former factory driver Enzo Kuhn over the latter stages of the season, was a little worse for wear after heavy contact with Girotech's Armco barriers. Fortunately, neither driver nor navigator was hurt in what was a big accident. And replay action here of the incident also shows a major wake-up call for a couple of spectators who picked up the wrong vantage point. The second of the Girotech special stages was at the handling test track. Tony Ball and Marty Olivier were defending a top 10 position and third in Class A7. In the Class N2 battle, championship leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the team total Toyota Corolla started the day by taking 8 seconds off Cobus Roos and Neil Ferree, and now had a handy cushion over the Hencom Toyota. At the overnight halt, Eastern Cape crew Gijs Klein and Johan Barnard were fourth in Class A7 in the Team Total VW Golf, and were having a personal duel with fellow Algoa Motorsport Club members Dolf Koetsier and Mario Swart in the old-shape Toyota Conquest. The Group N and Class N3 titles were now virtually out of reach for Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, and at this stage of proceedings they were merely going through the motions. That was hardly the case in Class S20, where Jaco and George Bakker, in a former Works Toyota Conquest, were battling to hold off a challenge from off-roaders Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert in the big Rob Green Racing Land Rover. Running at the front of the Class N1 field were Skalkberger Jr. and Greg Godrich in the Jojo Tanks Opel Cadet, with the pair having an impact on the outcome of the Class N1 championship. Behind them, Class A7 backmarkers Joel and Annika Ritson were locked in battle with Johan and Leon van der Merwe in the VW Golf entered in the Class S20. The duel between the Ritson and van der Merwe combinations was academic, but behind them, drama was being played out. Class N1 championship leaders Mike Houghton and Brian Doherty in the Toy Toy Spares Toyota Taz were ahead on the road of championship rivals Rodney Fasaki and Caroline Chimmer. On elapsed time, Houghton and Doherty trailed Fasaki and Chimmer by over a minute, and their championship hopes were receding. The third last stage of the Stanek Gauteng Rally saw the action shift to Rosslyn, with Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding still firmly entrenched in second place in an overheating Reeks towing VW Golf. This was another of those special stages where crews starting out on their first lap came across cars nearing the end of the stage, and Van der Walt and Harding came across rally leaders Jan Havik and Doug Judd, who were still in cruise mode. Van der Walt and Harding were still 11 seconds ahead of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, and this was to have an impact on the final overall championship positions. Lawrence and Paisley needed to finish ahead of Van der Walt and Harding to take third place ahead of Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have another podium position, but second would have been better because I need to get a few more points than Hannes does to be able to keep the third overall in the championship. And at this point in time, I think I'm a point short.
Lawrence and Paisley dropped another 5 seconds on Van der Walt and Harding in special stage 17, and that virtually ensured that runaway Group N leaders Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon would also finish third in the overall championship. The Class N2 battle was just about wrapped up for Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, with the Team Total Toyota crew now well in control of their scrap with Cobus Ruus and Neil Ferree in the Hencom Toyota. Ruus and Ferree were now around 2 minutes behind the Team Total pair, and with only 2 short special stages with a combined distance of 5 kilometres remaining, Ruus and Ferree had little hope of closing the gap. Team Total Nissan Sentra pair, Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen, had dropped behind the 2 Class N2 cars, but there was more drama when Gijs Klein and Johan Barnard rolled the Team Total VW Golf in the Rosslyn stage. They clipped a drain with heavy damage to what was a brand new car, but fortunately both Klein and Barnard were unhurt. Another Team Total crew in a spot of bother were Craig Trott and Brian Duncan, with 2 flat tyres hindering their progress. Like all good navigators, Duncan let driver Trott do all the hard work. But when they got underway again, it was still with a flat left rear tyre, and they went plummeting down the leaderboard. One crew who never had tyre problems were Cliff Barker and Malcolm Joubert, who ran the whole event on 1 set of tyres in the glorious-sounding Land Rover. The Jaco and George Bakker Toyota Conquest was also showing signs of some wear and tear, and spare a thought for Craig Trott and Brian Duncan, who eventually dropped around 5 minutes on a stage they will want to forget. The final special stage of the 1999 Stanek Rally Championship at Esselen Park, with South African champions Jan Havik and Doug Judd putting the finishing touches to a hugely successful season. Second place provided Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding with their best result of the season, and also wrapped up a 3rd successive Class A7 championship. There was another podium finish for Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley, but they missed out on 3rd place in the overall championship by just 1 point. Former Class A6 champions Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz bounced back to form with 4th place, but it was too little, too late. Another marvellous performance saw Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon to 6th overall, and with it, the Group N and Class N3 championships. Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper wrapped up the Class N2 title with a maiden Class N1 win, going to Skulkberger Jr. and Greg Godrich in the Jojo Tanks Opel Kadett. It was a result that saw Team Total pair Rodney Fasaki and Carolyn Chimmer nip in ahead of Mike Houghton and Brian Doherty to win the Class N1 championship. 2 Group N crews made it into the top 10, with Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen 8th overall in winning Class S20. For South African champions Jan Havik and Doug Judd, 6 wins and 2 seconds in 8 starts tell their own story in what was an outstanding season for the factory VW Motorsport team.
Our team has worked very hard, the car's working well. There's a lot of potential left in the car, I think, and I think next season will be a very quick car. I think it's going to be the car to beat next season.
Havik and Judd developed a taste for champagne over the year, and there was well-deserved bubbly for Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding after an impressive finale to their season. The pair have virtually turned the Class A7 championship into their own property in recent seasons. Hannes Grobler and Nick Haddon also developed a taste for bubbly during the season. And what can you say about 2-time Group N champion Grobler, who just seems to get better as the years roll by?
I'm just thankful that we had the end and that we've won the Group N for the day as well as the Group N championship for the year. And a cherry on the cake was that it looks like we moved to 3rd overall on the overall championship for the year as well.
There we go. There are our Group N winners, our champions for 1999.
National pipe opener to a new season and provides crews from throughout South Africa with a stern early test.